The unthinkable has happened. The $2.8 trillion global car market, one of the largest industries on Earth, is collapsing before our eyes. And this is not some minor dip or temporary slowdown. It's shaping up to be the biggest crash in auto history. Dealerships are empty. Automakers are bleeding billions. Banks are tightening credit. And some of the most iconic names in the industry, companies that literally built the modern world, could disappear entirely. To understand how we got here, you have to first recognize just how massive this industry is. The auto market doesn't just sell cars. It powers economies, employs tens of millions worldwide, and drives everything from oil demand to real estate prices. Without cars, the world doesn't move. In the United States alone, autos make up about 3% of GDP, and in countries like Japan or Germany, that number is even higher. For decades, the industry was stable. Sure, there were ups and downs, gas crises, and recessions, but nothing could bring it down for long. That's why this collapse feels so shocking. The cracks began years ago, first with the pandemic, when factories were shut down and supply chains ground to a halt. Then came the global chip shortage, which left brand new cars sitting unfinished on lots. Imagine thousands of cars, fully built but useless because they were missing a $30 chip. That bottleneck alone cost automakers over $200 billion in lost revenue. Then came inflation, rising costs of materials, and interest rate hikes, which pushed the average new car loan into the stratosphere. By 2025, the pressure cooker finally blew. The average new car payment in the U.S. climbed over $750 a month, with many buyers now facing payments closer to $1,000. Used car prices, which had soared during the pandemic, are now collapsing as repossessions surge. Banks are repossessing cars at the fastest rate since 2009, flooding the used market with inventory and driving prices down further. Dealerships are struggling to survive, closing their doors one after another as unsold cars gather dust. And it's not just a U.S. problem. Europe is in freefall as well. In Germany, Volkswagen and BMW are warning of massive production cuts. In Japan, Toyota and Honda are slashing forecasts. Even in China, the world's largest car market, demand is dropping after years of growth. In short, consumers aren't buying, companies aren't selling, and the entire global system is seizing up. And here's where the danger multiplies. This isn't just about cars. The entire financial system is tied into auto loans, leases, insurance, and supply chains. Banks are sitting on billions in risky loans that could default if this crash deepens. Parts suppliers, from chip makers to tire manufacturers, are being crushed by collapsing demand. Shipping and trucking companies, who move those cars around the world, are watching business dry up. And then there are the workers, millions of them, from the assembly lines in Detroit to the port workers in Shanghai, to the dealership employees in your own city, all staring down the barrel of mass layoffs. Economists are calling it the Detroit domino, because once one giant falls, dozens more will follow. And remember, we've seen this story before. In 2008, the financial crash forced GM and Chrysler to take government bailouts just to survive, while Ford barely escaped bankruptcy. What's happening now could make 2008 look small, because this isn't just one country's crisis. It's global. And yet, in the middle of this chaos, something strange is happening. While the old giants are collapsing, electric vehicle startups, companies that were drowning in debt just a few years ago, are suddenly surging in value. Governments are pouring billions into EV subsidies and green initiatives, and that's giving companies like Tesla, BYD, and even smaller startups a second life at the exact moment legacy automakers are bleeding out. It's a massive reshuffling of the board. EVs were once seen as niche, maybe even a fad, but now they're being positioned as the future, while gas-powered cars are being phased out faster than expected. And that raises a question. Is this really a crash, or is it a forced transition? Maybe the $2.8 trillion car market isn't disappearing. Maybe it's transforming into something completely new. But here's the part nobody's talking about. Even EV makers aren't immune. Many startups are still losing billions every year, burning through cash at unsustainable rates, and relying on government aid just to keep the lights on. So while Tesla and BYD may come out stronger, dozens of smaller EV brands could collapse in the process, leaving behind a battlefield of bankruptcies. The truth is, no one is safe right now. And this transformation isn't just about what powers a car, it's about how we think of cars in general. For over 100 years, ownership was king. You bought your own car, you parked it in your driveway, and you drove it whenever you wanted. But that model is fading fast. Younger generations are questioning whether they even need to own cars, especially in cities where ride-sharing, public transport, and soon, autonomous fleets are becoming real alternatives. Companies are already experimenting with subscription models, where instead of buying, you pay monthly to access different cars. Imagine driving a sedan during the week, swapping it for an SUV on the weekend, all with the tap of an app. That's the future automakers are betting on. Which brings us back to today. The collapse of the traditional car market could accelerate all these changes. The fall of giants like GM or Ford could open the door for new players to completely redefine what transportation looks like. And that's why this crash is so historic. It's not just wiping out value, it's rewriting the rules. But I want to hear from you. Would you buy a car right now, or would you wait this out? Drop your answer in the comments because this market is unlike anything we've ever seen, and your perspective matters. Think about it. The last time the car market shifted this dramatically was when Henry Ford introduced the Model T in 1908, and that invention reshaped the entire 20th century. We could be standing on the edge of the same kind of revolution right now. So is this the end of the $2.8 trillion car market as we know it, or just the painful reset needed to drive us into a new era? One thing is for certain. The auto industry will never look the same again. And if you love breakdowns like this that connect car culture, money, and the future, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe right now, because I've got more deep dives coming, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next.